So this is the tail of 3 562s. The one on the right is the saw I built with a pop-up piston and muffler mod and all that kind of stuff. The focus of the muffler mod cut cover was for heat. Possibly the performance is going to increase because of those, but that wasn't the intent. And the purpose of the pop-up piston was an increase in compression. And of course I was hoping a little more performance out of that saw, right? The one in the middle is my ultimate old man saw, which is basically the same build as the one on the right with all the 562 components, stuffer crank, EL48 carb, and ignition system built on 555 cases. And the reason for that saw was to get the same kind of power characteristics as the one on the right, but with a smaller bar mount, so the cases are smaller, the saw is lighter, and the bar and chain combinations I can put on that saw are smaller and lighter as well. Weight savings is the focus of the middle saw. And the one on the left is stock. And that's a saw that is typical of 562s. All three of those saws have got chains with some time on them. They don't look bad, but they don't look perfect. So this is not scientific where we're trying to get to the microsecond difference between one saw versus the other. This is about orders of magnitude. I guess the questions that I'm asking here, was it worth it to go through all the effort to build either one of the two saws on the right hand side, you know what I'm saying, versus just having a good running stock saw? Are modifications worth the effort? And for you people who can't do it themselves, is it worth the money? Not going to try to answer the question in the video, but we're going to start piling up data to see if that actually is a concept that makes sense. And obviously the motivations to modify saws are many, from just ego for get-togethers to actual production for a professional. The trade-off being possibly reliability. The second question is to build versus buy. I could have got to the same place I got to with that middle saw, ultimate old man saw, by simply buying a 560 from Europe or a 2260 here in the States from John's Thread. Whole lot less time and effort, and doing the standard modification I do with the muffler and the pop-up piston starting from a saw in that configuration would have saved me a lot of effort and hassle, obviously. The question is, what saw do you buy for your intended application? Weight and vibration being a focus, maybe a 555 or the 2260 would have been a better choice. And the last question is bar and chain configurations, which obviously is a derivative of question number 2. Based on what you want to cut and your priorities, sizing the bar and chain to the work that you plan on doing and get you a better performing package. You got to think total saw concept. And yet again, had I started with a 2260 and got that speed cut bar and chain, I would have got to where I am essentially with that middle saw a lot easier than building one from scratch, but it wouldn't have been as much fun. It's really hard to put numbers to what you get for results. Now, the middle saw for me, the priority was weight, vibration, and hoping to get the same kind of power I have on the one on the right. So get a lighter weight saw, smaller saw, but not lose a lot of performance, I guess is the better way of putting it. Most people are going to have the one there on the left, just stock. That's a nice running saw. Is it worth changing? I'm not going to try to answer that question in the video, but I am going to start piling up data. So without further ado, let's just make some test cuts and start the tail of the 3 562s. Number 1, stock. Chain's got a little time on it, so no, it's not in optimal configuration, but it's also typical. Best chain, but not the worst. Alright, next up is the modified one. And it too, that's the same chain that's been on the last couple of videos. Those chains are not that far apart from what you can see in the chips, you know what I'm saying? So that's actually representative. Yeah, the modified one felt like I could push on it more. But I let the chain eat versus push, but I think I had more in that saw. Yeah, I think it was faster too. Old man saw. No, just a comment. This is that new Oregon product line, and it's actually an economy bar. It's not their pro bar. It's a speed cut system. It's a narrow kerf .325 chain combo. Now that sprocket's a little wimpy for plunge cutting or bore cutting. Rather see a few more rivets and maybe a stronger structure. But I'll tell you what, it sure is light, and I think the times will tell you whether or not it cuts. And I'll stress, this is an 8-pin sprocket on this setup right here. That saw could easily do one of two things: pull a 9-pin for limbing and more chain speed, or I could probably cut that chain down with a more aggressive grind on the rakers. We're at the end of fall. We don't have any snow on the ground, which is kind of unusual for this time of year. But the time will come when I wish I never said that, because this place can get blown right in, as you've seen in prior videos. You know, those 3 saws, and this is part of what this is all about, all 3 of those saws are nice to run. You know, Stalker is a nice running saw. And the modified one, yeah, it pulls harder, there's no doubt. You can feel it. You might see it in the times. And the ultimate old man saw, there's more to go with that saw. And I think I need to make that point. It hasn't broken in yet. And I'm not really utilizing the power that's available yet either. I can tell because I can push like crazy on it. And there's a lot more to go there. But I think another point that has to be made is all 3 of those saws could be improved. And that's why I'm not going to give exact times in the video. I'm just going to give, like, round it up to a second or second and a half if it splits right in the middle. But I think what you're going to find is both the modified saws cut roughly the same. That's what it felt like. But both of them could be enhanced. Both those chains have got a little time on it, so they're not perfect, you know. They're typical of a chain that's got a few tanks on them. That's what they are. Same with the Stalker. And the stock one, I think I could probably, I don't know, take a half a second off by a better chain. I mean, that chain wasn't bad. It's just, it needed a little more aggressive grind on the rakers, I think. You know? So I guess, to wind this video up and finish it off, the way it felt power-wise was my first modified one with the bigger bar and chain, the total bar and chain. That felt like the strongest running saw. And it felt like it cut the fastest. But I suspect it's not that much faster than the old man saw, which felt the same kind of power class. And it felt like I was just fighting a bar chain combo that wasn't taking advantage of what it makes for power. But both of those saws actually felt quite a bit healthier than the Stalker. And I guess I'm not really surprised, but percentage-wise, I'm not sure what we're going to see, but it was something that was noticeable. And I think the Stalker, I could make it go, like I said, probably half a second faster, but all things being equal, I don't think I can make it cut as fast as the two modified saws, and it shouldn't. I mean, that's the point of modifying saws, right? It goes back to the hypothetical questions, whether to modify or not, whether to invest the time in picking the bar and chains. Now I got to add weight to these numbers, but I think what you're going to find is after you see how they cut, which all cut well, and we start putting the weight to it, I think you're going to understand the Ultimate Old Man Saw better. All three of those had 20-inch bars, by the way. Anyway, I'm rambling. Boy, I missed it. We had a gorgeous sunset. Would have been a perfect way to end that video. Well, kind of an addendum. Sometimes you got to keep things in perspective here, you know. I got this scale. Oh, I see. That's how it turns on. Pressure. So let's see if it's got enough resolution to weigh saws. First up, a loaded up 372. 20 pounds. How about a 390? Check that out. A 390, that's actually my junk pile build 385, and an X torque. I don't know what else to tell you guys. Of course, there's some fuel in these. There's actually fuel in all these saws. So this is, again, orders of magnitude because I didn't dump the fuel out of these things. And again, the first hot rodded 562. It has roughly the same amount of oil and fuel as the other ones. 17.4 pounds, stock 562. 18.6. Actually, pull that off. Doesn't matter. Again, orders of magnitude here. Ultimate Old Man Saw. So between the stocker and the Old Man Saw, I picked up 2 pounds. 16.4 versus 18.6. So there's a clean 2 pound difference between Ultimate Old Man Saw and a stock 562 with a stock bar. And like I said, I filled them both up. Actually, I filled all 3 of them up before I went to cutting, so the fuel load's roughly the same. You gotta put things in perspective. $27 pounds.